It is 5:47 in the morning. The city of Atlanta has not fully woken up yet. The streets are quiet, draped in that gray half-light that belongs only to the hours before the world gets loud. Somewhere in the distance, a bus hisses to a stop. A dog barks twice, then falls silent. And a 20-year-old young man named Marcus Webb pulls on a gray hoodie, laces up his second-hand sneakers, and steps out into that quiet. Not because he wants to, but because he has to. He has a thermodynamics midterm in 4 days. He has $43 in his bank account. He has a 1-hour commute to Georgia Tech, where he is studying mechanical engineering, and not a single person in his bloodline has ever said those two words together before. Not his mother, not his grandmother, not his uncle who ran a small garage and first showed him how machines worked before the cancer took him 2 years ago. Marcus walks with his earphones in, not because he is listening to music, but because the earphones make people less likely to talk to him, and right now he cannot afford the distraction. He turns a corner, and that is when he sees it. A car that does not belong on this street, a car that does not belong in this zip code, a matte black 2025 Mercedes-AMG G-Wagon, sitting halfway up on the curb with its hazard lights blinking orange into the gray morning, looking like a spaceship that had made a very unfortunate landing. And standing beside it, hands on his hips, jaw set like granite, staring down at a completely flat rear tire, is the largest human being Marcus has ever seen outside of a football field. This is the morning that changes everything. Stay with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. To understand what this moment means, you have to understand where Marcus Webb begins. He grows up in Vine City. That is a neighborhood on the west side of Atlanta, a neighborhood with history, with culture, with community, but also with all the weight that comes when a place has been systematically underfunded for generations. The kind of neighborhood where the grocery stores close before the liquor stores do, where the schools have cracked ceilings and not enough textbooks, where a boy growing up fast learns very quickly that the world was not designed with him in mind. Marcus's mother, Diane, works double shifts at a hospital laundry facility. She's the kind of woman who has never once in her life complained about being tired. Not because she's not tired, she's exhausted in the deep way that goes beyond sleep, but because complaining feels to her like a luxury she cannot afford. She raised Marcus and his younger sister, Keisha, on the logic that you get up, you show up, and you do not stop. That is the only philosophy she has ever taught her children, not with words, but with her feet, hitting the floor at 4 a.m. every single morning. Marcus's father left when Marcus was 9. He does not spend much energy on that. He decided early that a person's absence tells you everything you need to know about them, and what it tells you is mostly just move on. What Marcus has instead of a father is a passion that borders on obsession: machines. From the time he's 7 years old, Marcus is the kid who takes things apart to see how they work. Alarm clocks, a broken blender, the lawnmower belonging to the old man 3 doors down who gives Marcus $5 to fix it. And Marcus fixes it at age 11 by figuring out that the carburetor is clogged, which he read about in a library book, which he checked out 3 times because he could not stop reading it. His uncle Jerome, his mother's younger brother, sees this in Marcus and nurtures it the only way he knows how. Jerome runs a small auto repair garage out of a lot on the edge of the neighborhood. Nothing fancy, a lift, a set of tools, a hand-painted sign, and the deep knowledge that comes from decades of working on engines. Jerome teaches Marcus how to diagnose a car by the sound it makes, how to feel through a wrench for the exact moment a bolt has reached proper tension, how to respect a machine, because a machine that is respected will not fail you. Jerome dies of pancreatic cancer when Marcus is 18. It's sudden, brutal in the way that particular disease can be. Marcus sits with him in those last weeks, and Jerome makes him promise not to take care of the family, not to be a good man, those things are assumed, but specifically to finish his education, to go as far as the machines can take him. The world runs on engineering, he tells him in a voice already thinned by illness, and they always need somebody who actually understands how things work. You understand how things work, Marcus. Don't let them tell you otherwise. Marcus applies to Georgia Tech 3 months later. He applies for every scholarship available. He gets some, not enough. He makes up the rest by working nights at a FedEx sorting facility, 20 hours a week of lifting and sorting packages in a warehouse that is either freezing or sweltering depending on the season, leaving for class sometimes directly from a night shift, existing on coffee and determination and the periodic reminder that Jerome believed in him and he is not going to waste that. He is a junior now. His GPA is 3.71. He is concentrating in thermal and fluid systems. He wants, specifically, to work on thermal management for grid-scale battery storage, the infrastructure problem, not the battery chemistry problem. He has written a 14-page personal research document on the subject that his professor described as, quote, unusually sophisticated for an undergraduate. He takes the bus to school every morning, 1 hour each way. He walks the last half-mile, and on a Tuesday morning in October, on that last half-mile walk, he turns a corner and sees a matte black G-Wagon with a flat tire and a very large man who cannot bend down far enough to do anything about it. Let us talk about Raymond Osei. Because Raymond Osei is not simply a wealthy man with a broken-down car. Raymond Osei is what happens when extraordinary intelligence meets extraordinary discipline meets extraordinary pain, and all three of those things refuse to quit. Raymond was born in Accra, Ghana, the third of 5 children, to a school teacher father and a seamstress mother, who together ran the kind of household where education was not a preference but a commandment. Raymond arrives in the United States at 23 with a scholarship, a suitcase, and about $200 to pursue a graduate degree in finance at Emory University in Atlanta. He is brilliant. Not in the flashy, look-at-me way, in the quiet, relentless way, the kind of brilliance that doesn't announce itself but simply keeps being right about things, keeps seeing patterns that others miss, keeps making decisions that 5 years later everyone agrees were correct. He builds Osei Capital Group from a single investment fund operating out of a rented office the size of a large closet. 23 years later, it is one of the largest private infrastructure investment firms in the Southeast United States. Raymond has personally overseen the financing and deployment of projects totaling more than $4 billion. He sits on the boards of 3 major corporations, 2 universities, and 1 charitable foundation dedicated to STEM education access in underserved communities. He is also, at 6'6" and over 250 pounds, a man for whom the basic geometry of the world is a daily inconvenience. Cars designed for average-sized humans, airplane seats, restaurant booths, and, on this particular Tuesday morning, the act of crouching down beside a tire that has gone completely flat on Northside Drive in Atlanta at 6 in the morning when he has a board meeting downtown in 40 minutes. Raymond has the jack out. He has the lug wrench in his hand. He has attempted twice to get into the position required to actually do anything useful, and both times his body, specifically his back, specifically his knees, specifically the entire compacted architecture of a very large man trying to fold himself toward the ground, has refused to cooperate. He stands back up. He looks at the tyre. He looks at his watch, which is a Patek Philippe, a detail that Marcus will only notice later and only partially understand, and he says something under his breath that is not appropriate for this video. And then he hears a voice. "You need help with that?" Raymond looks up. Standing on the sidewalk, one earphone half out, backpack over one shoulder, is a young black man in a grey hoodie and clean white sneakers, looking at the car with the specific kind of professional calm that people who actually know things have in situations where people who don't know things are anxious. Raymond Osei has spent 30 years reading people. It is perhaps his single most developed skill, more refined even than his financial analysis. He can sit across from a person for 4 minutes and know more about their character than a background check will tell him. He does not know why this is. He suspects it is because he has always paid more attention to how people move through difficulty than to how they present themselves in ease. He looks at Marcus Webb. He sees the earphones. He sees the backpack. He sees the hour, just past 6 in the morning, and the direction the young man is walking. He sees the way Marcus is looking at the car, not at the brand, not at the price tag implicit in every line of the vehicle, but at the tire, at the problem. "You know how to change a tire?" Raymond says, not unkindly, directly. "Yes, sir. I'm a mechanical engineering student. Also, I've changed maybe 30 tires. My uncle ran a small garage." Raymond considers this for approximately 1 second. He holds out the lug wrench. "Name's Raymond Osei. I have a board meeting in 40 minutes. Marcus takes the wrench. "Marcus Webb, I'll be 15 minutes. And he gets to work. What happens in those 15 minutes is not simply a tire change. It is, in a very real sense, an audition. Except Marcus does not know it is an audition. He is just doing what he knows how to do, in the way that Jerome taught him to do it, with the same focused efficiency he brings to everything in his life that he actually cares about. The first thing he does is check the jack placement. The G-Wagon has a reinforced ladder frame chassis with specific jack points, not where a casual person would assume, and Marcus finds them correctly, without hesitating, without Googling. He has worked on enough vehicles in Jerome's garage to know that the first mistake in any repair is a failure to understand the structure you are working with. He does not make that mistake. The second thing he does, and this is the thing that Raymond notices immediately, is loosen the lug nuts before jacking the car. This is the correct order of operations. When the tire is still on the ground, the friction prevents it from spinning. Most people who don't really know what they're doing will jack the car first and then discover that they cannot get the lug nuts off because the wheel just spins. Marcus doesn't make that mistake either. He works without commentary, without showboating. He is not performing for the large man in the expensive coat watching from the sidewalk. He is just fixing a tire the way Jerome would have wanted it fixed, properly, completely, without shortcuts. Raymond watches. "Where do you go?" he says after a moment. "Georgia Tech," Marcus says, not looking up. "What year?" "Junior." "Concentration?" "Thermal and fluid systems." Raymond is quiet for a moment. The hazard lights keep blinking, orange against the grey morning, steady as a heartbeat. "What do you want to do with it, the degree?" Marcus has been asked this question before, in various contexts by various people, and he has learned to give different versions of the answer depending on who is asking and how much they actually want to know. Professors get the full version. Classmates get a shortened version. Family gets an even simplified version because the specific terminology tends to land somewhere between confusing and alienating when you say it on Sunday dinner. He looks at this man, this enormous, clearly wealthy, clearly impatient man, and for reasons he cannot entirely explain, he gives the full version. I want to work in sustainable energy infrastructure, specifically thermal management systems for grid-scale lithium iron phosphate deployments in real grid conditions, especially in urban environments where ambient temperatures fluctuate significantly. That's where the engineering is unsolved. Silence. Raymond Osei does not speak for a long moment. "Tighten the sequence," he says. Marcus blinks. He looks up. "Sir?" "You're doing it right. I want to know if you know why." Marcus looks at him. He looks at the wheel. He looks back at Raymond. "Because sequential tightening, going around the circle, creates uneven clamping force. It warps the rotor over time, causes vibration, reduces brake performance. Star pattern distributes the load evenly across the hub. The tension is balanced." Raymond nods. One single slow nod. "What's your GPA?" he asks. 3.71. "Why isn't it higher?" It is not said cruelly. It is said the way an engineer would ask why a reading is below the expected value, with genuine scientific curiosity about what variable is causing the discrepancy. Marcus sits back on his heels. He looks up at Raymond. He could deflect. He could give a half answer. He doesn't. "I work 20 hours a week at a FedEx facility, night shifts. I go to class sometimes directly from a night shift. It takes something out of me. I'm managing it, but it takes something out of me." Raymond says nothing. Marcus finishes tightening the lug nuts. He lowers the jack. He checks the tire by pressing on it firmly with both hands, feeling for the correct resistance. He stands up. "Done," he says. "You'll want to replace that with a full-size spare before your next highway drive. The spare you have is a temporary, 60 miles an hour max, no more than 70 miles of use." Raymond looks at the tire. He looks at Marcus. He reaches into the inside pocket of his cashmere overcoat and produces a card. It is thick, heavy stock, cream-colored with only a name and a number embossed in clean black type. Raymond Osei, Osei Capital Group. "I built one of the largest private infrastructure investment firms in the Southeast. We have a division currently focused on grid-scale energy storage deployment. We have been looking for 8 months for an engineering mind who understands the thermal management problem at the infrastructure level." He pauses. "We have interviewed 18 candidates. None of them have had the right instincts." Marcus holds the card. He is very still. "I am not offering you something because you changed my tire," Raymond says firmly. "I want to be clear about that. I am offering you a conversation because in 15 minutes you demonstrated more structured thinking than 2 candidates I interviewed last month who had master's degrees." He straightens his coat. "Call that number this afternoon. Tell whoever answers that Raymond said to schedule you for Thursday. Bring anything you are working on, a project, a paper, research notes, anything." Marcus looks at the card. Then he looks up. What if the conversation doesn't go well? Raymond almost smiles. It moves through his eyes before his face fully registers it. "Then it doesn't go well," he says, "but it will go well." He gets into the G-Wagon. The engine turns over with a sound like controlled thunder. He pulls back into traffic and the car disappears around the corner. Hazard lights off now. moving with the quiet authority of something built to an entirely different standard than the ordinary world around it. Marcus stands on the sidewalk. He holds the card. He is going to be late to his 8 a.m. lecture. He does not move for 30 seconds. He calls the number at 2:17 p.m. after his afternoon lab session, sitting on a bench outside the engineering building with his phone pressed to his ear and his heart doing something it is not accustomed to doing. A professional, friendly voice answers. He says Raymond told him to call. He says his name is Marcus Webb. There is a pause. Thursday at 10 a.m., the voice says. Mr. Osei will be expecting you. Marcus goes home. He does not sleep well. He pulls out his research document, the 14 pages on thermal management infrastructure for urban grid-scale storage, and he reads it like someone else wrote it, looking for weaknesses, looking for gaps, annotating the margins with new thoughts that have come to him since. He prints 3 copies at the library on Wednesday. He irons his one good shirt. He polishes his shoes. He arrives at the Osei Capital Group offices on Thursday at 9:44 a.m. The building is glass and steel and the kind of quiet that expensive carpeting produces. The receptionist brings him water. He sits in a chair that is worth more than his family's monthly rent and does not let that fact occupy any space in his mind. Raymond arrives at exactly 10 o'clock. He is in a charcoal suit now, and in this environment, his environment, he is even larger than he seemed on the street. Not just physically. The weight of what this man has built fills the room in a way that has nothing to do with size. He sits across from Marcus. He looks at the papers Marcus has brought. "Walk me through it," Raymond says. Marcus does. For the next 45 minutes, Marcus Webb explains his thinking on thermal management in grid-scale battery infrastructure with a clarity and depth that he has been developing alone, without an audience, for 2 years. He talks about the specific failure modes of lithium iron phosphate systems under real urban temperature cycling conditions. He talks about the asymmetry between laboratory testing environments and actual deployment contexts. He talks about 3 possible architectural approaches to distributed thermal regulation, with rough cost modeling and failure probability estimates for each. Raymond asks questions, not easy questions, hard questions, the kind designed to find the edge of what Marcus actually knows versus what he is approximating. Marcus answers the ones he can answer. For the 2 he cannot, he says clearly, "I don't know the answer to that yet. Here's how I would find it," and he outlines a methodology. When it is over, Raymond sits back in his chair. "You are the first person," he says, "in 8 months of looking, who has identified the correct problem." He says it simply, without flourish. "Everyone else has been focused on the battery. You are focused on the system. That is the right place to be focused." He leans forward. "Here's what I'm offering. A paid research internship beginning immediately with our infrastructure division. 30 hours a week. The compensation will be enough that you can stop the night shifts." He pauses. "You will work with a team of senior engineers. You will have access to our industry network, and you will continue your degree. That is not optional. Finishing your degree is a condition of this arrangement. Are we clear?" Marcus Webb, who has been holding himself together with everything he has for the last 45 minutes, nods. "Yes, sir," he says. "We are clear." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. What happens after that is not magic. It is work. It is the same work Marcus has always done. Harder now because the stakes are higher, but also lighter because the conditions have changed. because he is no longer trying to learn engineering while simultaneously surviving poverty. He is now learning engineering in an environment that is actually built to help him grow. He stops the FedEx night shifts. The first full night of sleep he gets after that, 8 uninterrupted hours, he wakes and lies still for a long time, not quite believing it. His GPA rises. By the end of that semester, it is 3.89. By his senior year, it is 3.94. He is co-authoring a technical brief with 2 senior engineers from Osei Capital's infrastructure division on thermal regulation frameworks for urban grid-scale lithium iron phosphate deployments. The technology is intended specifically to serve urban grids in communities that are underserved, neighborhoods like the one he grew up in, where the power has always gone out first and come back last. Raymond Osei is in the 3rd row. He does not say anything during the presentation. He doesn't need to. Afterwards, when the room has cleared, Raymond walks over and places one large hand briefly on Marcus's shoulder. "You know what you actually did that morning?" Raymond says. "Changed a tire." "No." Raymond shakes his head slowly. "You showed up. You paid attention. You did the work with care, even when no one you knew was watching, even when there was no obvious reward for doing it right." He pauses. "The tire was just where you happened to be standing." Marcus thinks about Jerome, about the garage, about 30 years of being taught, quietly and without ceremony, that the way you do small things is the way you do all things. "Someone taught me that," Marcus says. "Someone always did," Raymond says. Outside, Atlanta is loud and golden and full of morning light, the kind of light that makes even ordinary streets look like they are made of something worth keeping. Marcus Webb walks into it, head up, eyes open, ready for whatever the next corner holds. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more stories about real people who changed their lives one moment at a time.